The war was finally over. After 15 long years of blood and fire, the last Krell hive ship had been destroyed. Taesung stood in the Great Hall of Axiom Prime, surrounded by thousands of soldiers from dozens of worlds. His dress uniform felt strange after so many years in combat gear. The medals on his chest felt heavy, each one a reminder of friends who hadn't made it home. The Valorian Empress stood on the central platform, her ancient form wrapped in flowing robes that seemed to shimmer with starlight. She was speaking about honor and sacrifice, about the bonds forged in battle. Taesung barely listened. He just wanted to go home to Earth, to see the beaches of Busan one more time, to visit his sister's grave and tell her that humanity had survived. Then he heard his name echoed through the hall. Captain Taesung of the Terran Defense Force, hero of the Crimson Nebula. The soldier who held the line at Europa Station when everyone else had fallen back. He walked forward, his boots clicking on the crystal floor. The Empress placed a medal around his neck, a star made of some material that glowed with its own inner light. "For your service," the Empress said, her voice like wind chimes, "we offer you the greatest honor our people can bestow, a companion from our noble houses to serve you all the days of your life." Taesung didn't understand at first. Then he saw her being led onto the platform. She was the most beautiful creature he had ever seen. Her skin was a soft blue, like Earth's sky at twilight. Her hair fell in silver waves down her back. Her eyes were violet, large and expressive, and in them he saw something that made his stomach twist with discomfort. Fear. Shame. Anger. "This is Lyrae of House Velian," the Empress announced. "She is yours, Captain. A gift to honor your courage." The hall erupted in applause. Taesung felt like he might be sick. He looked at Lyrae, really looked at her, and saw a person being given away like a prize. Like property. She stood perfectly still, her face a mask of composure, but her hands were trembling slightly at her sides. "I can't accept this," Taesung said. His voice was quiet, but in the sudden silence everyone heard him. The Empress tilted her head. "You refuse our gift?" "She's not a gift," Taesung said, louder now. "She's a person. You can't just give people to other people." "That's not how humanity works." The hall exploded into chaos. Valorian nobles shouted in outrage. Human diplomats looked horrified. Taesung saw his commanding officer, Admiral Hyunwoo, pushing through the crowd toward him. The older man's face was red with anger and embarrassment. Before the Admiral could reach him, Lyrae spoke. Her voice was cold and clear. "The human insults my house and my people. If this is how Earth honors its allies, perhaps the alliance should be reconsidered." The Empress raised one hand and silence fell instantly. "Captain Taesung, you have fought bravely, but you do not understand our ways. This is not slavery. This is sacred trust. Lyrae chose this honor. To refuse her is to shame her family for generations." Taesung looked at Lyrae again. She met his eyes and he saw the challenge there. She was daring him to refuse, to cause a diplomatic incident, to maybe even restart the tensions between their peoples. But he also saw something else, something desperate. She didn't want this either, but she was trapped by her own culture's expectations. Admiral Hyunwoo reached him and gripped his arm hard enough to hurt. "Captain, a word now." They moved to a side chamber while the ceremony continued with other awards. The Admiral closed the door and rounded on him. "Do you have any idea what you almost did out there? The Valorians supply half our fusion cores. They control 3 major trade routes. If you insult them now, Earth loses everything we fought for. Sir, they're offering me a person, a living, thinking person." "I know what they're offering," Hyunwoo said. His voice was tired. "And I know it goes against everything we believe in. But this is bigger than you or me. The treaty is barely signed. There are factions on both sides looking for any excuse to break it. If you refuse this gift, you give them that excuse, so I'm supposed to just take her? Pretend I own another sentient being? You're supposed to be a soldier and follow orders," Hyunwoo snapped. "Accept the gift. Take her back to Earth, figure out the rest later. But do not destroy the peace that 1,000,000 soldiers died to achieve." Taesung wanted to argue, to fight, but he was too tired. He had been fighting for 15 years. Maybe Hyunwoo was right. Maybe he could accept this gift and then find a way to free Lyrae once they were away from all the politics and ceremony. They returned to the hall. Taesung stood before the Empress and bowed. "I apologize for my rudeness. I am honored to accept your gift and will treat Lyrae with the respect she deserves." The Empress smiled. You are forgiven, Captain. Your passion proves you will protect what is yours. Lyrae, go to your new master. Lyrae walked to him, her movements graceful despite what must have been happening inside her. When she reached him, she knelt on one knee and bowed her head. The position made Taesung feel sick all over again. Rise, he said quietly. Please, you don't have to do that. She stood but didn't meet his eyes. As you command. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. There were more speeches, more awards, more celebrations. Through it all, Lyrae stood 3 steps behind Taesung, silent and still like a beautiful statue. People congratulated him on his prize. Some of the other human officers looked uncomfortable, but none of them said anything. The Valorian nobles seemed pleased that the diplomatic crisis had been avoided. That night, Taesung was given quarters in the diplomatic section of Axiom Prime. Lyrae followed him inside. When the door closed behind them, he immediately said, Look, I don't know how this works in your culture, but in mine, you don't belong to me. You're free to do whatever you want. Lyrae finally looked at him directly. Am I free to leave? Yes, and go where? She asked. Back to my family in disgrace? Wander the galaxy as an outcast? You don't understand, human. I chose this. Not because I wanted to be owned, but because it was the only way to preserve my house's honor. My brother died fighting alongside your people. This was my duty. That's insane, and that's tradition, she said. Yours or mine, all cultures have chains. At least mine are visible. They stood in silence for a long moment. Finally, Taesung said, What's your name? Your real name, I mean. Not just Lyrae of House Velian. Just Lyrae, she said. That is my real name. I'm Taesung. Just Taesung. Not captain, not master. Just a soldier who wants to go home. Then we have that much in common. Lyrae said quietly, I want to go home too. But neither of them had a home to return to anymore. The ship back to Earth was called the Indomitable. It was a massive carrier, scarred from battle but still flying. Taesung and Lyrae shared a small cabin near the officer quarters. There were 2 beds, a small table, and a viewport that showed the endless black of space. They existed in careful silence, like 2 strangers forced to share an elevator for a very long journey. Taesung tried to treat Lyrae like a normal person. He asked if she wanted the bed near the viewport. He offered her first choice of the ration packs. He told her she could come and go as she pleased. She accepted everything with polite thank yous that felt like walls between them. She never relaxed, never dropped her guard, never stopped treating him like he might give her an order at any moment. 3 days into the journey, Taesung couldn't take it anymore. He found her in the observation deck, standing alone and staring at the stars. Can we talk? He asked. Of course, she said. What do you command? I'm not commanding anything. I'm asking. There's a difference. Lyrae turned to face him. Is there? You say I'm free, but if I left this ship right now, if I took a shuttle back to Valorian space, what would happen? I don't know, Taesung admitted. Probably some kind of diplomatic mess. Exactly. My family would be shamed. The alliance would be strained. People who fought together might become enemies again. So am I really free? Or am I just in a prettier cage? Taesung had no answer for that. They stood in uncomfortable silence until Lyrae spoke again, her voice softer. You think our customs are barbaric? Giving people as gifts? Yes, he said honestly. We think your customs are cruel too, she said. You put your elderly in homes and forget them. You let your children choose their own paths even when it destroys them. You value individual choice over family honor. To us that seems selfish and cold. That's different, is it? Or is it just different chains? Lyrae looked back at the stars. I didn't want this either, you know. Being given to a stranger like a piece of jewelry. But my brother died at the Crimson Nebula. He fell saving a human ship. When I heard about this tradition, this chance to honor his memory and help my family, I volunteered. I chose this cage. Taesung felt something shift in his chest. I lost my sister. During the Krell invasion of Sol, she was only 16. Just a kid. I'm sorry, Lyrae said, and for the first time she sounded like she meant it. War takes everything from everyone, doesn't it? Yeah, Taesung said. It really does. The alarm shattered their moment. Red lights flashed through the corridor as the ship's warning system screamed. Taesung's combat instincts kicked in immediately. Meteor strike. Hull breach, come on! They ran together through the corridors. Crew members rushed past them, heading to emergency stations. The ship shuddered as something massive hit the outer hull. Tae-sung heard the horrible sound of metal tearing, air rushing out into space. They reached the damaged section and found chaos. A chunk of meteor had punched through the hull and atmosphere was venting into space. 3 crew members were desperately trying to seal the breach with emergency foam, but it wasn't working fast enough. One of them was Ji-woo, a young engineer Tae-sung had met in the mess hall. The seal won't hold. Ji-woo shouted over the roar of escaping air. The pressure is too strong. Tae-sung looked around, thinking fast. We need to reduce the pressure difference. Close the inner bulkheads, contain the leak to this section. There are 30 people in the compartments behind us, Ji-woo said. If we seal them in, they'll suffocate when the air runs out. Then we get them out first, Lee said. She was already moving, her hands flying over a wall panel. I can reroute emergency power to open the blast doors long enough for evacuation. But someone needs to stay here and make sure the foam seal holds until everyone is clear. I'll do it, Tae-sung said. We'll do it, Lee corrected. You need someone to monitor the seal integrity while you apply the foam. That's a 2-person job. They worked together like they had trained for years. Lee rerouted power while calling out pressure readings. Tae-sung applied emergency foam to the breach, building up layers while fighting against the pull of vacuum. Ji-woo and the other crew members ran to evacuate the compartments behind them. The breach was bigger than Tae-sung thought. The foam kept tearing away in chunks. His hands were numb from the cold of space bleeding through. Beside him, Lee was calculating trajectories on her datapad, predicting where the next weak point would appear. Left side 30 degrees, she called out. Stress fracture forming. Tae-sung pivoted and sprayed foam on the spot just as a crack began to open. The foam hardened instantly, holding back the void. They fell into a rhythm, Lee predicting and Tae-sung sealing over and over as the minutes stretched into an eternity. Last group is clear. Ji-woo's voice came through their communicators. Close it now. Do it, Tae-sung said. Drop the bulkhead. The massive door began to descend. Tae-sung and Lee ran for the closing gap. They dove through just as it slammed shut with a final, decisive clang. On the other side, they heard the hull section fully breach and blow out into space. But everyone was safe. 30 crew members saved. They lay on the floor, breathing hard. Other crew members surrounded them, thanking them, checking them for injuries. Ji-woo helped them to their feet, his young face bright with relief and admiration. You two were amazing, Ji-woo said. The way you worked together, it was like watching a machine. Perfect coordination. Tae-sung looked at Lee. She looked back at him. Something had changed. They had trusted each other in a moment of crisis, and that trust had saved lives. In the days that followed, things were different between them. Lee still maintained her formal distance, but now there were cracks in the wall. She would sit with him in the mess hall. She would offer opinions when he asked about ship operations. She even smiled once when he told a bad joke about asteroid mining. One evening, Tae-sung found her in their cabin looking at a hologram. It showed a young Valorian male, handsome and proud in military armor. Is that your brother? He asked. Yes, his name was Kalor. He was braver than me. Stronger. Better. Her voice was thick with grief. I doubt that, Tae-sung said. Anyone who volunteers to bridge 2 species, who chooses duty over comfort, that's real bravery. Lee looked at him with surprise. You mean that? Yeah, I do. I didn't understand before. I still think the tradition is wrong, but I understand why you made your choice. That takes courage. Show me, Lee said suddenly. Show me your sister. Tae-sung pulled up his own photos. Hee-jin smiling at her school graduation. Hee-jin teaching him to make kimchi. Hee-jin waving goodbye before the Krell came. She wanted to be a teacher. She said the world needed more people who built things instead of destroying them. She was right, Lee said softly. They sat together, 2 people from different worlds, sharing their grief and slowly, carefully building something new. Not master and servant, not owner and property. Just 2 soldiers trying to find their way home. I have a proposal, Tae-sung said. When we get to Earth, you don't have to follow me around or pretend to serve me. Just stay nearby. We'll figure out how to satisfy the diplomatic requirements without the master-servant stuff. Partners, maybe. Or just friends, Lee considered this. Your admiral won't like it. Probably not. But he'll have to deal with it. And my people will think I'm failing in my duty. Are you? Lee smiled. A real smile this time. No, I don't think I am. Partners, then. We'll see how it goes. Deal, Tae-sung said. They shook hands, And for the first time since this whole mess started, Taesung felt like maybe, just maybe, something good could come from it after all. 3 months on Luna Base changed everything. The moon installation orbited Earth like a silent guardian, home to 10,000 soldiers and support staff. Taesung had been assigned to defense coordination, planning patrol routes and monitoring sensor networks. Lyrae worked beside him, her tactical knowledge and understanding of Valorian technology making her invaluable to the team. They had become friends. Real friends. They shared meals in the cafeteria, argued about the best ways to modify defense grids, and spent quiet evenings in the observation lounge watching Earth spin below them. The crew treated Lyrae with respect now, not as Taesung's property but as a colleague. Even Admiral Hyunwoo had admitted grudgingly that their partnership was working better than anyone expected. But peace is fragile, and political forces on both sides had not forgotten about them. The message from Valorian High Command arrived on a Tuesday morning. General Korath, leader of the Valorian military, demanded that Lyrae return home immediately to report on human military capabilities and integration methods. The message was polite but firm. Lyrae was still a citizen of the Valorian Empire, and she had duties to her people. "They want me to spy on you," Lyrae said, reading the message in Taesung's quarters. "They're dressing it up as a routine debrief, but that's what they mean." "Are you going to go?" Taesung asked, trying to keep his voice neutral even though his stomach was twisting. "If I refuse, they'll consider it treason. My family will lose everything." Lyrae set down the data pad and looked at him. "But if I go and tell them what they want to know, I betray you. I betray Earth. I betray what we've built here." Before Taesung could respond, his own communicator chimed. A message from Ambassador Sungmin, Earth's chief diplomat. Taesung was ordered to report to a secure conference room immediately. Alone. The conference room was cold and sterile. Ambassador Sungmin sat at the head of the table, flanked by 2 intelligence officers Taesung didn't recognize. Their faces were hard and calculating. "Captain Taesung," Sungmin began, his voice smooth as oil. "We understand you've developed quite a close relationship with the Valorian, Lyrae. We work well together, sir. Indeed. Which is why we need your help. We need detailed information about Valorian shield technology, their fleet movements, their political structure, things that Lyrae would know." Taesung felt cold. "You want me to interrogate her?" "We want you to ask some questions. Use your friendship. She trusts you." Sungmin leaned forward. "Captain, the war may be over, but the Valorians are still a potential threat. We need this information to ensure Earth's security." "She's not a threat. She saved lives on this base." One of the intelligence officers spoke up, his voice flat. "People can save lives and still be spies. The Valorians gave her to you for a reason. Maybe they wanted someone on the inside all along." "That's not true," Taesung said, but doubt crept into his mind. Had he been played? Was everything Lyrae told him part of some elaborate intelligence operation? "Just ask her some questions," Sungmin said. "Casual conversation. Report back what you learn. That's all we're asking. And if I refuse, then we'll question whether your loyalty is to Earth or to an alien who's legally your property." The ambassador's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Choose wisely, Captain." Taesung returned to his quarters feeling sick. Lyrae was waiting for him. She took one look at his face and knew. "They asked you to spy on me. How did you know?" "Because I'm not stupid. And because it's exactly what I would do if I were them." She sat down heavily. "So what now? Do we betray each other? Do we tear apart the only good thing to come out of this stupid war?" "I'm not going to spy on you," Taesung said. "And I'm not going back to report on you," Lyrae replied. They sat in silence, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on them. Then Taesung's communicator chimed again. An emergency alert. His blood ran cold when he saw the message. "Security breach. Armed intruders in the residential sector?" "Their sector. Move," Taesung shouted, pulling Lyrae toward the door. They made it 3 steps before the door exploded inward. The assassins were professionals. 2 humans, 2 Valorians, all wearing unmarked armor. They came in fast with weapons raised. Taesung tackled Lyrae behind the bed as energy bolts scorched the air where they had been standing. Taesung drew his sidearm and returned fire. One attacker went down. Lyrae grabbed the emergency kit from under the bed and pulled out a plasma cutter, using it like a weapon to drive back the second human attacker. They fought together, backs against each other, like they had during the hull breach, but with death all around them. The fight lasted maybe 2 minutes but felt like hours. When it ended, 3 attackers were dead and 1 was wounded. Base security arrived just as Taesung was securing the survivor. The prisoner stared at them with hate-filled eyes before triggering something in his armor. He died instantly, foam bubbling from his mouth. Poison. Commander Ryu of base security examined the bodies. This was a professional hit. Clean gear, military-grade weapons, suicide protocols. Someone wanted you both dead. Someone from both our governments, Liray said quietly, pointing to the attackers. 2 humans, 2 Valorians. This was coordinated. The implications hit Taesung like a physical blow. Elements from both Earth and Valorian command wanted them eliminated. Their friendship, their partnership, their refusal to betray each other made them dangerous to someone's plans. We need to disappear, Taesung said. Now, agreed, Liray said. But where? They'll hunt us anywhere in civilized space. The answer came from an unexpected source. Jiwoo, the young engineer they had saved months ago, appeared in the doorway. I heard what happened. I might know a place. My uncle runs a settlement on New Jeju, a frontier colony world. It's rough, but it's far from politics. Why help us? Taesung asked. Because you saved my life. Because you two are proof that different people can work together. And because I'm tired of watching politicians destroy good people. Jiwoo smiled nervously. Also, my uncle owes me a favor. They had no better options. Jiwoo helped them fake their deaths using body doubles from the morgue. The official story would be that the assassination succeeded. In reality, they slipped onto a civilian transport heading to the frontier colonies. As New Jeju appeared on the view screen, a dusty world on the edge of known space, Taesung felt Liray take his hand. No going back now, she said. No going back, he agreed. But at least we're going forward together. They landed on New Jeju in the middle of a dust storm. The spaceport was a collection of prefab buildings huddled against the wind. Jiwoo's uncle, Dae-hyun, met them at the landing pad. He was a grizzled veteran with scars on his face and wisdom in his eyes. So you're the 2 dead people, Dae-hyun said, looking them over. You got everyone from here to Earth hunting for you. Hope you're worth the trouble. We'll earn our keep, Taesung promised. Damn right you will. I could use help at my cantina. And if half what Jiwoo told me is true, you two might be useful when trouble comes. And on New Jeju, trouble always comes. They followed Dae-hyun into the dusty town. It was rough and hard, full of miners and salvagers and people running from their pasts. But it was also free from the politics and games of the core worlds. Here, nobody cared if you were human or Valorian. They only cared if you could work and fight and survive. That night, lying on a cot in a room above Dae-hyun's cantina, Taesung asked Liray, any regrets? About throwing away my entire life to hide in a dust bowl at the edge of space? Liray smiled. None at all. For the first time since the war ended, I feel free. Me too, Taesung said. But freedom, they would soon learn, came with its own price. Because in the shadows of New Jeju, something dark was stirring. Something that would force them to fight one more time. Not for their governments or their people, but for each other and for the fragile peace they had helped create. The war wasn't over after all. Life on New Jeju was hard but honest. Taesung and Liray worked in Dae-hyun's cantina during the day, serving drinks to miners and listening to their stories. At night, they helped maintain the town's defense grid, their military training making them invaluable to the small community. Weeks turned into months. They were anonymous here, just another pair of refugees trying to make a life on the frontier. But the past doesn't stay buried forever. It started with small things. Miners reporting strange lights in the desert at night, salvage teams finding equipment that shouldn't exist on a backwater world like this, empty Krell biopods discovered in abandoned mining tunnels. At first, Dae-hyun dismissed it as rumors and coincidence. But Taesung and Liray knew better. They had fought the Krell for too long to ignore the signs. The Krell don't have lights, Taesung said one evening, studying the reports spread across the cantina's back room. They're biological weapons, not a technological species. Someone is using their remains. Or growing new ones, Liray added, her face pale. During the war, there were rumors that some species wanted to weaponize the Krell instead of destroying them. The military potential was enormous. That's insane. The Krell nearly wiped out half the galaxy, which makes them the perfect weapon if you can control them. They began investigating quietly, asking questions, following leads. What they discovered chilled them to the bone. There was a facility in the desert, 50 kilometers from town. It was supposed to be an abandoned mining operation. but security drones patrolled its perimeter and ships came and went in the dead of night. The ships bore no markings, but their designs were mixed, both human and Valorian technology. "We need to get inside that facility," Taesung said. "We need proof first," Liray countered. "If we're wrong, we're just paranoid fugitives. If we're right and get caught, we're dead." They spent 2 weeks gathering intelligence. Dae-hyun used his contacts among the smugglers and salvagers. Slowly, a picture emerged. The facility was a black market bioweapons lab, funded by elements from multiple governments. They were breeding new Krell, trying to make them controllable. And the operation was run by people they knew: Vice Admiral Chang-min from Earth's fleet, General Korath from Valorian High Command, the same people who had tried to have them killed. They never wanted peace, Liray said, staring at the evidence they had compiled. They wanted the war to continue. More war means more power, more money, more control. And we were in the way, Taesung said. 2 people who proved that humans and Valorians could work together, could be friends. We were dangerous to their narrative. They planned their infiltration carefully. Dae-hyun provided them with forged credentials and a stolen access card. On a moonless night, they approached the facility dressed as supply contractors. The security was tight, but not as tight as a military installation. These people were confident in their secrecy. They got inside, and what they found was worse than their nightmares. Rows of biotanks filled with growing Krell warriors. Control collars designed to override the creature's predatory instincts. Shipping manifest showing deliveries to locations across both human and Valorian space. This wasn't just one facility. It was a network. A conspiracy spanning both governments. "We need to document everything," Liray whispered, her hands shaking as she copied files onto a data chip. Taesung was photographing the biotanks when alarms started screaming. They had been discovered. Red lights flooded the facility. Blast doors slammed shut, cutting off their escape routes. "This way!" Taesung grabbed Liray's hand and they ran. Guards poured into the corridors, weapons firing. They fought back, stunning guards and dodging return fire. They made it to a storage area and barricaded themselves inside. "We're trapped," Liray said, checking the room's exits. "There's only one door and they're coming through it." "Then we make a stand," Taesung said. "We got the evidence." "That's what matters." The door exploded inward. But instead of guards, Vice Admiral Chang-min walked through, flanked by armed soldiers. Behind him came General Korath, his Valorian features twisted with contempt. "Captain Taesung," Chang-min said, his voice sickeningly pleasant. "We thought you were dead. How disappointing to find we were wrong." "You tried to kill us," Taesung said. "You tried to destroy the peace." "Peace?" Chang-min laughed. "Peace is bad for business. Do you know how much money flows during wartime? How much power militaries gain? Your little friendship was inspiring people to think peace could last. That was unacceptable." Korath stepped forward. "Liray of House Velayan, you have betrayed your people by refusing to serve your purpose. You should have gathered intelligence on the humans. Instead, you became one of them." "I became better than you," Liray spat. "I became someone who values life over profit." "Touching," Korath said, "but meaningless. You'll both be killed along with everyone in that pathetic town. Then we'll blame it on a Krell attack. Fear will spread, the alliance will fracture, and the war machines will start turning again." They were separated then, dragged to different interrogation rooms. Taesung fought, but there were too many guards. The last thing he saw was Liray being pulled away, her eyes meeting his with desperate determination. In his cell, Chang-min made his offer. "Come back to Earth, Captain. Forget about the alien. We'll restore your rank, give you a position of honor. All you have to do is say the Valorians forced you to work with them. Say Liray was controlling you. Help us restart the war. Go to hell," Taesung said. Chang-min shrugged. "I expected as much. You always were too idealistic." In another cell, Korath made the same offer to Liray. "Return to Valorian space. Denounce the humans. Say they corrupted you, forced you to betray your people. Your family's honor will be restored. You'll be a hero." "I'd rather die with honor than live with your kind of shame," Liray said. Korath smiled coldly. "That can be arranged." But what the conspirators didn't know was that Taesung and Liray had planned for this possibility. During their months together, they had developed their own codes, their own signals. When the guards changed shifts, they made their move. Taesung used a technique Liray had taught him to dislocate his thumb, slipping free of his restraints. Liray used a human combat trick Taesung had shown her to disable her guard. They moved through the facility like ghosts, using their knowledge of each other's skills to overcome every obstacle. They found each other in the main corridor. No words were needed. They just ran together, fighting together, surviving together like they always had. They made it to the communication center and uploaded their evidence to every contact they could think of. Jiwoo on Earth, Lirai's cousin Silara in Valorian space, even Admiral Hyunwoo, hoping he might still have some shred of honor left. Then they ran for their lives as the facility exploded into chaos behind them. They stole a transport and flew it back toward New Jeju, alarms chasing them across the desert sky. Daehyun met them at the landing pad, armed and ready. "You two kicked a hell of a hornet's nest. I just got word. There's a Krell force heading for this town. They're going to make good on their threat." "Then we fight," Taesung said. "We fight," Lirai agreed. Daehyun grinned, a fierce and terrible expression. "Damn right we do. Welcome to New Jeju, where we don't run from anything." As night fell over the town, they prepared for war. But this time, they wouldn't be fighting for governments or empires. They would be fighting for each other, for the town that gave them shelter and for the simple right to exist in peace. In the darkness above, ships were already moving. Some carried death, but others, inspired by the evidence Taesung and Lirai had transmitted, carried hope. The final battle was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Krell came at dawn. 12 bioships, grown from twisted flesh and bone, descended on New Jeju like locusts from ancient nightmares. The town had maybe 300 people, most of them miners and salvagers with no military training. Against an army of weaponized Krell warriors, they should have lasted minutes. But New Jeju had something the Krell didn't expect. It had people who refused to quit. Taesung stood on the town's makeshift wall, a barrier of scrap metal and hope. Beside him, Lirai checked her rifle, her face calm despite the approaching swarm. Daehyun rallied the defenders, his voice strong and sure. The old veteran had fought in more battles than most people had birthdays, and he wasn't about to lose his home without a fight. "They'll hit the east wall first," Lirai said, reading the Krell attack patterns. "They always go for the weakest point. Then we make it the strongest," Taesung replied. He called to the defenders, "Everyone who can shoot, east wall. Everyone else, get the children to the shelters." The Krell hit like a wave of claws and teeth. They swarmed over the barriers, driven by the control collars around their necks. Behind them, human and Valorian mercenaries provided support fire. The conspirators wanted this town wiped out, every witness to their crimes dead and buried. Taesung and Lirai fought like they were one person. When Taesung fired, Lirai covered his reload. When Lirai called targets, Taesung hit them without hesitation. The defenders saw them and took heart. If two people from different worlds could fight this well together, maybe they all had a chance. But the Krell kept coming. For everyone they killed, 2 more took its place. The east wall was crumbling. People were dying. Taesung's arms burned from the weight of his rifle, and his ammunition was running low. Beside him, Lirai had a cut across her shoulder, blue blood staining her armor. "We can't hold much longer," Daehyun shouted over the sound of weapons fire. Then the sky lit up with new arrivals. Ships dropped out of hyperspace, dozens of them. Taesung's heart sank, thinking it was more enemies. But then he saw the markings. Earth Defense Force, Valorian Imperial Fleet. They were flying together side by side. The lead ship opened fire, not on the town but on the Krell bioships. Explosions bloomed in the sky like deadly flowers. Drop pods rained down and soldiers poured out. Humans and Valorians fighting shoulder to shoulder to push back the Krell swarm. Admiral Hyunwoo himself led the Earth forces. He found Taesung in the chaos and gripped his shoulder. "Your evidence reached me, Captain. I checked the facts myself. When I found out what Changmin was doing, I arrested him and everyone involved in the conspiracy." "You believed us?" Taesung asked, stunned. "You saved a ship full of people together. You gave up everything rather than betray each other. That kind of integrity is rare." "I'd be a fool not to listen," Hyunwoo smiled grimly. "Besides, the Valorian Empress sent her own forces. Seems Lyrie's cousin Silara has the old lady's ear now." Speaking of Silara, the Valorian commander found Lirai and embraced her tightly. "Cousin, we thought you were dead." When your evidence arrived, everything changed. Korath and his conspirators have been arrested. The Empress is furious. She's calling for reforms, ending the old traditions that allowed this to happen. The battle turned quickly after that. The Krell, still wearing their control collars, were either destroyed or captured. The mercenaries surrendered or fled. By midday, New Jeju was secured. its streets filled with an army of former enemies who had chosen to fight together. In the aftermath, as medics tended the wounded and engineers began repairs, Taesung and Lirai stood together watching the activity. They were exhausted, covered in dust and blood, but alive. Together. "So what happens now?" Lirai asked. "Now we change everything," Admiral Hyunwoo said, approaching with Solara at his side. "The evidence you gathered has exposed corruption in both our governments. People are angry. They want reform. And they want the people who prove that cooperation works to help lead the way." "We're not politicians," Taesung said. "No, you're something better. You're proof." Solara smiled. "The Empress is abolishing the tradition of companion gifts. Instead, she's establishing voluntary cultural exchange programs. Real partnerships, not ownership. Earth's government is backing the changes," Hyunwoo added. "We're signing a new treaty, the Mutual Accord of Free Peoples. Every being has the right to choose their own path regardless of species or tradition." Taesung looked at Lirai. "That's what you wanted, isn't it?" "Freedom? I already have freedom," Lirai said softly. "I found it when I chose you. When we chose each other." Hyunwoo cleared his throat. "There's another matter. Both governments want to offer you positions. Command of the new Joint Human-Valorian Defense Initiative. High honors. Comfortable positions far from the frontier." "No," Taesung said immediately. "No," Lirai agreed. Solara laughed. "I told the Empress you'd refuse." "So what will you do?" Taesung looked around at New Jeju, at the people who had fought beside them, at Daehyun organizing the reconstruction efforts. "We'll stay here. This town proved that different people can live and fight together. We'll make it a training academy. Teach humans and Valorians to work together like we do. A school for cooperation," Lirai said, warming to the idea. "Show others that friendship between our peoples isn't just possible, it's stronger than any weapon." "The Joint Academy of New Jeju," Hyunwoo said, nodding slowly. "I like it. I can get funding approved. Both governments will support it." "Then it's settled," Solara said. "Though, cousin, your family still wants to see you. They want to apologize for the pressure they put on you." "I'll visit," Lirai promised. "But New Jeju is my home now." Over the next months, New Jeju transformed. The academy rose from the desert, a place where humans and Valorians learned together. They studied each other's tactics, shared their knowledge, and most importantly, learned to see each other as equals. Taesung and Lirai led by example, two people from different worlds who had found common ground in the most unlikely place. Jiwoo arrived to help set up the technical systems, bringing with him a dozen other young engineers eager to be part of something new. Daehyun was elected mayor, his cantina becoming a gathering place where species mixed freely. The town grew, and with it grew hope. One evening, a year after the battle, Taesung and Lirai stood on a hill overlooking the academy. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that looked the same to human and Valorian eyes. Below them, cadets from both species trained together, their laughter and shouted instructions mixing in the air. "Do you ever regret it?" Taesung asked. "Everything you gave up?" "Not for a second," Lirai said. She took his hand, the gesture natural now after so many months together. "I was given to you as a prize, a piece of property to honor your service. But somewhere along the way I chose you. And you chose me. That choice, that freedom, is worth more than all the honor and tradition in the galaxy." "I love you," Taesung said. The words came easy now, though they still made his heart race. "I love you too," Lirai replied. "Not because I have to, not because of duty or honor or politics, but because you're you and I'm me and we're better together than apart." They kissed as the sun set over New Jeju, two people from different worlds who had found their home in each other. In the sky above, a patrol ship passed overhead, crewed by mixed human and Valorian teams. It was the first of many, a symbol of the new alliance they had helped create. The galaxy was changing. Old prejudices were falling away. New friendships were forming. And at the heart of it all were two people who had refused to accept the world as it was and had fought to make it something better. Years later, historians would study the new Jeju Academy as the turning point in human-Valorian relations. Politicians would credit the mutual accord of free peoples for the era of peace that followed. But those who were there, who fought on that dusty frontier world, knew the real truth. It all started with a soldier who refused to own another person, and an alien who chose freedom over tradition. It started with Taesung and Lirai, two unlikely partners who prove that the strongest bonds are the ones we choose for ourselves. Their story became legend, told to cadets on both worlds. A reminder that true strength doesn't come from weapons or ships or ancient traditions. It comes from the courage to stand up for what's right, the wisdom to see past differences, and the love that bridges even the widest gap between stars. And every evening, as the sun set over New Jeju, you could see them on that hill, two silhouettes against the fading light, still together, still fighting for a better tomorrow, still proving that humanity's greatest quality isn't its technology or its fighting spirit. It's the ability to see others as equals, to choose love over fear, and to build bridges where others see only walls. The war had taken everything from them. But in losing everything, they had found each other. And that, they both agreed, was worth more than any victory the war could have given them. The end of one story. The beginning of countless others.